My name is Joris Mollinga, co-founder at DuckDuckGoose, where we are on a mission to detect deepfakes and filter out what to believe from what we perceive. I'm on the Edge of AI podcast, a fantastic place to learn about AI. You better believe it. Stay tuned.
Hello, AI podcast passengers. Jump on in. Here's what's to come on today's journey. Find out how today's guest is exposing deepfakes and adding trust to this uncertain new AI world. Why, if you think reality is strange, you're wrong. It's you that's strange. And from graduate trained AI expert, learn what book is known as the AI Bible. Amen. All this and more, take your seat.
Welcome aboard the Edge of AI podcast. Snap into your safety belt and prepare to explore the depths of the rapidly expanding AI universe. Each episode is a dispatch featuring hyper-relevant reports from the pilots, pioneers, and passengers aboard the AI rocket ship. We explore the latest use cases and developments in AI, hear from experts building tech, and learn how this disruptive force is transforming industries and society.
I'm really excited about today's guest. So it's with Joris Mollinga of DuckDuckGoose. DuckDuckGoose is a platform that offers advanced solutions to protect against deepfake videos and images. Any of you that have been involved with AI or been utilizing, you know this is an ongoing issue. Joris is an AI specialist who majored in artificial intelligence before co-founding DuckDuckGoose. In his role as a co-founder, he oversees the product and development teams, driving innovation and leveraging his experience and expertise to keep the company at the forefront of technology. With a strong focus on ethical AI practices, Joris advocates for responsible development and use of the AI systems that benefit society. We know the industry is rife full of unintended consequences, and it takes guys like Joris to help keep us between the lines. Beyond his professional accomplishments, he also finds fulfillment in mentoring aspiring AI enthusiasts and engaging in charitable initiatives. DuckDuckGoose aims to realize a digital environment in which we can trust what we see. The emergence of deepfakes means that everything we see digitally can be manipulated. In order to ensure everyone's autonomy to determine what's true, they are developing insightful deepfake detection software. The software is not only able to classify a certain image or video as real or fake, but also provide insight into why that content has been classified as manipulated. Their software is available as a forensic analysis tool, but also via their website for free so that everyone can see the difference. So let's start with a little background, Joris. You completed your graduate work in AI before co-founding DuckDuckGoose. What's it been like behind the scenes in AI academia and industry the past few years as the developments have unfolded? And how did you end up becoming a co-founder?
Thank you, Ron, and thanks for having me on the Edge of AI podcast. It's been a very exciting journey for me in both AI academia and in AI industry in the past years. As an AI specialist, I had the opportunity to immerse myself in cutting-edge research, exploring the potentials and challenges of artificial intelligence. I think it's awe-inspiring how AI transforming the way we interact with technology and interact with the systems around us. My background is not in computer science or AI. I'm originally an aerospace engineer. As a kid, I always wanted to become a pilot. Well, that didn't work out for various reasons, but ended up doing aerospace engineering instead, which was interesting. But what I found most interesting during this aerospace degree was a few elective courses I had on artificial intelligence. And during those elective courses, so just some deep learning 101, some basic tinkering with deep neural networks and solving some very easy or very basic regression or classification problem really got me inspired for pursuing a career in AI. And that's when I decided, once I completed my bachelor's, to pursue a master's degree in AI at the University of Amsterdam. I graduated in 2020, just at the beginning of 2020, just before COVID hit, and founded DuckDuckGoose shortly thereafter. At DuckDuckGoose, we aim to realize a digital environment where we can still believe what we perceive. You said this yourself. And at the moment, this is threatened by the availability of synthetic media. Synthetic media is a very broad term, and within that scope, we focus on deepfakes. And at DuckDuckGoose, we provide deepfake detection products and services.
Before we go deeper into that, I want to get a little foundation of DuckDuckGoose and yourself. We know your background, you've told us now. Now, you went to University of Amsterdam and you have your master's degree from there, which is fantastic. You live in the Netherlands, correct?
Correct. I live in Amsterdam.
Right, and that's where you're at. And that's also a great thing that about our industry, but I would say it's over the last couple of decades, we've been able to have companies dispersed all over the world, and it's pretty seamless, just as we're sitting here right now. I'm in the Los Angeles area and you are in Amsterdam, and here we are. And I know that's how you operate your business as well. Give us a quick snapshot of DuckDuckGoose. In other words, are you operating in a physical facility? How many people do you have? Kind of how did the founders, you don't have to go too deep, but how did you guys get together? And of course, everybody's going to wonder about the name.
Yeah, the question about the name we get asked a lot, as you can imagine. Now, I met my two founders, Mark and Priya, at the beginning of 2020. There was a mutual connection who laid the introduction. DuckDuckGoose is a spin-off from a university project, and I joined the company just at the moment that it spun off from the university. We started with the three of us. At the moment, the team consists of 11 team members, so we've grown pretty steadily in the past years. We have an office in the Netherlands, and where our team is dedicated to providing robust and reliable deepfake detection products and services.
Oh, that's fantastic. And the University of Amsterdam, are they really out front when it comes to, I mean, they have a master's class in AI. I'm going to suggest there can't be many of those out there. So is it unique or one of the first movers?
No, there's not too many of them out there. They have been around for quite a long time, and it's especially within Europe, the Amsterdam Machine Learning Lab, with a couple of well-known professors, is quite highly regarded.
Fantastic. There's a term, genetic algorithms. Can you hit that for me a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Genetic algorithm are an optimization technique which is inspired by processes of nature, of basically the principle of natural selection. And it aims to solve complex optimization problems by mimicking the principles of evolution. Like mutation or survival of the fittest, basically. And over time, this process converges towards better solutions, enabling genetic algorithms to efficiently explore large solution spaces and come up with optimal or near optimal solutions. And in these elective courses I took on machine learning and AI, there was some tinkering with genetic algorithms too, and I found that fascinating, and that inspired me to pursue this career in AI.
So, and this is for the audience now. This is going to culminate into an understanding of what DuckDuckGoose is. It is pretty amazing because we've all seen the wow moments of this is a deep fake, can you believe it? And we know that's out there now. And we know that as AI is snowballing every single day and finding its way into everything we touch and do, that the distrust is going to grow more and more. And DuckDuckGoose is a solve for that problem. It's kind of amazing to me. So within that, as we move forward, there's going to be some screen shares, and I do realize some of the audience will be on audio only, so we'll try and describe what we're looking at to the best we can. But for those of you that are able to see this, I think you're going to be blown away. It's pretty amazing. So why don't you talk about how you help detect deepfake threats, and kind of how did you decide to pursue this value proposition?
At DuckDuckGoose, we leverage the power of AI for deepfake detection. So it's a kind of an AI versus AI battle, because it's the AI, generative AI, creating or manipulating digital footage, and our AI being able to distinguish real footage from deepfake footage. We've trained systems to be able to tell the difference between a deepfake image and and a normal image by training our software on data sets of real and deepfaked images. These data sets are a combination of proprietary data sets that we develop ourselves, as well as publicly available open source data sets.
So the AI is actually training itself once you get it going, right? It keeps reaching out and getting more data. I assume that's the way it's working, yes?
Well, we need to feed it. Still need to feed it data and in order for the AI to keep improving itself. But you are correct in the sense that it is becoming better over time. And that is, well, a requirement, because the deepfake technology is also evolving at a rapid pace, and generative AI technology is exploding right now. A couple of years ago, no one heard of the term generative AI, but it's exploding at the moment. So we need to keep up to date with the latest developments in generative AI.
What type of clients are you chasing right now? What is your optimal client? Is it institutional clients? Is it for the masses individually? Give me an idea of where, at least on the roadmap, where these starting points are.
We focus our deepfake detection products and services towards digital identity verification. So any process where an individual has to authenticate or identify his or herself with a selfie or a selfie video, these systems can be spoofed by presenting these liveness or these digital identity verification systems with a deepfake. And actually, this penetration testing is also something that we do at DuckDuckGoose to get a foot between the door to kickstart a conversation with our potential clients. So we sell to digital identity verification, which is mainly well-established large companies providing liveness and digital identity verification check. However, this is only our short-term focus. Well, as a startup, you need to start somewhere. We chose on digital identity verification, but as our product and as our software can be applied to any digital footage, images and video, which is basically everything nowadays, because we spend I don't know how much time of our day on our smartphone looking at videos and things on social media. Digital identity verification is not the end game, and there are tons of different industries we'd like to apply our solution to, for example, video conferencing or news and media, just to name a few.
So digital ID, is it just facial? I'll call it recognition, or is it retina, or is it anything in specific, or where are you starting on that?
It's more than facial recognition. What we take as input is a selfie of someone trying to identify his or herself in some kind of onboarding process for a bank account or cryptocurrency broker account or dating app or shared scooter, whatever. So we take a selfie or a selfie video as the input, and from there we do a deepfake classification. We receive the input, and a couple of seconds later we give our users a result, which consists of two things. First of all, a binary classification whether we think it's authentic or deepfake, which is expressed as a probability score. And second, we show what regions of the image are deemed suspicious by our AI. Literally, what pixels contribute most to the decision of our software, and thus this serves as a tool to guide the user in substantiating his or her decision, or whether on rejecting or accepting this selfie.
So, I mean, it's just amazing. And generative AI, we've been hearing the term. I would suggest there's a lot of people that are looking into or are somewhat involved that may not know the difference between AI in general, frankly, machine learning AI and generative AI. Can you hit that a little bit for us to educate? It's kind of rare for us to have the level of expertise that you own here to give us complete clarity.
Yeah, of course, Ron. Generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating new content rather than just analyzing or recognizing patterns in existing data. It uses machine learning models, particularly generative models, to generate new data that resembles the training data it was trained upon. And this capability makes it incredibly powerful and versatile. Common applications of generative AI are models that can produce images of people, or text-to-image models where you give it a prompt and it creates half a dozen images of, well, resembling the text prompt, but also audio, voice is something, well, that one could generate with generative AI models.
Got it. And that's really the magic. And I'll say about generative AI that most of us are familiar with now. Hear me through. I would say it was invented in November of 22, so less than a year ago. That's technically not accurate, of course. AI has been developing now for many, many years, decades, I'd say, and it's gotten a snowball rolling effect this last decade. But when I say it was invented in November, that's when the masses were able to touch it and use it. And it's kind of like, I commonly joke that the internet was invented in 2004. What I mean there is that's when people got high speed. Before that, it was interesting and a chore, but it is that moment that it came to the masses. So I think it's OpenAI, and it's November of 22. You want to speak to that a little bit, or tell me if I'm off base?
No, you're very right, Ron. I think you're referring to the release of ChatGPT in November 22, when, well, that was the first application of generative AI which went mainstream and was out of the blue, very easy for the mainstream to use. Before then, but the technology was not new. Large language models, the technology behind ChatGPT, or the type of neural networks behind ChatGPT, had existed already for a couple of years. They were not new, but this mainstream adoption in November 22, that was that shook the world quite a bit.
I can tell you the first gentleman that told me about ChatGPT was in November, and the thing that stuck with me, he said, in 90 days, everybody that touches the industry or is in tech is going to be using and know about this. He said 90 days after that, the whole world will know. And I would say his time frame was just about dead on. And with that kind of snowball movement, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like 6 years, or 6 months or a year from now, let alone further out. Which is why DuckDuckGoose is critically important. You've got to be able to tell real from fake, and that's what you guys do. And I think it's amazing. Let's circle back though. You never did tell us where the name came from. Where'd the name come from?
Yeah, we kind of got sidetracked. DuckDuckGoose is a children's game where players sit in a circle facing inwards, and there's one child who is it, and that child walks around tapping on the shoulder of the children sitting in the circle, saying duck, 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 until finally choosing a goose, and that the goose becomes the designated chaser, and the children run, and the goose has to chase one of the children, and then the game restarts. The metaphor here is that the goose is hidden within the ducks, just like deepfake images and videos are hidden within authentic image and video material. Hence the name DuckDuckGoose.
That is so perfect. It really comes clear with that. Thanks. So with that, it's probably a perfect time. Let's do a screen share and take a look at exactly what you guys do, and show us a demo. And I'll be interrupting a little bit to describe to the audio audience what we're looking at.
I think you should be able to see now this selfie, or this photograph of this man, and this man actually does not exist. This is a face morph, a combination of two faces of myself and my co-founder Mark. And using AI technology, the AI has kind of taken the average of our two faces and created a new identity. We call him Morris, which is the Mark and Joris, which never exists and never will exist.
So I just want to jump in. So if you were looking at the screen right now, what you would see is what looks like a headshot, a very close up of someone. And it looks, if you weren't on this podcast and saw this, you would just think it's just someone. And it's very, very real.
Yeah, Yeah, you would. And this is what we would take as input. So this would be a selfie we would receive in a digital identity verification process. Well, if we run this image through our software, we are basically returned with two things. And the first thing our software returns is a probability of this being a deepfake. And in this case, it's classified as highly likely being a deepfake, over 98%. That's the first part of the service we provide. The second part we provide is this heat map in the right bottom corner beneath overlay, which indicates which pixels contribute most to the decision of our AI. And this heat map with with red and green and bluish colors, well, highlights the intensity of the pixels that contribute to the decision of our AI. And in this case, you can see basically the entire face is highlighted, which is actually correct, because this face morph, basically everything is manipulated or altered with deepfake technology. Thus, labeling the entire face is.
So I'm going to interject a moment. So if you're looking at the screen now, what you would see is 4 images, and top left is the original image we saw in the last grade, and top right is that same image but cropped, a little tighter focus on the face. Below those are heat maps, much like you might see on Google Analytics if you've ever used that. And the overlay shows blue, green, yellow, red. And the red in this case is mainly around the nose area into the face. And then the other heat map, very similar. It's named heat map with intensity of artifacts. And it's pretty prominent, showing these changes. And I'm sure 98.1%, which is what it says at the top in regard to a probability of a deepfake, is a great example, because you can really see the color highlights. And you immediately look at it and say, well, if it was 10 or 20%, they would be much more minimal. But with that, go ahead, Joris.
Yeah, you're right, Ron. I picked this example with a reason, of course. And well, what I also want to point out is that we give an estimate on what type of deepfake generation methods this could be. There are, well, dozens, if not more, hundreds of different ways to create deepfake, from face swapping, face morphing, lip syncing, just to name a few. We also try to do a classification on that. So in this example, we predict it's around 22% an entire face synthesis, 21% a face swap, or 21% a face morph. And this can also help the user in substantiating his or her decision.
Pretty powerful. And I assume this all happens very quickly. If we're using your tool and you did this, you get this near instantly, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. This is almost, for images, this is also almost real time. We also apply this on video. It's a bit heavier on video, but can also be done near real time. It's
pretty powerful. But, for the public and for the media, what can they do to be more vigilant, even before turning on your tool or knowing they should be turning on your tool?
Yeah, well, we provide a retrospective analysis on images and video. And for some use cases, that's not enough. The damage may already be done before the retrospective analysis that we provide comes into play. For many years, people have believed that images and video is kind of the last stronghold in information supply. If you see it, it must be real, and it cannot be faked. That's what most people still believe, I think. We live in a time where this is no longer the case. Anything you see on any screen, tablet, smartphone, social media, whatever, may be faked or at least manipulated. And what I think is that there should be an awareness shift within people, the general public, that, well, this stronghold of information supply, that what you see must be real, it no longer applies in 2023.
Man, you talk about a problem to be solved. It's really big, because it morphs in so many different ways. It's kind of like, people say AI and they think it's a thing, an individual thing. It's just not. It's so many use cases and so many industries it touches. So you're starting with digital IDs, but there are probably 100 that we can name easily, other directions for you to go. So, and then, uses like maybe we have your tool on our computer and it's automatically checking things as we go. That's one possibility, right? Like, do you imagine, say, years down the road, how DuckDuckGoose will be, how will we be using it? Will it be an app on our mobile device? How do you suggest that's going to?
Well, at the moment, we provide a product which is very similar to what you described, Ron. We created a browser plugin, deepfake proof, which you install within Chrome or whatever browser you're using, and which checks the footage, the images you're watching, if you're not by accident looking at deepfake material and maybe being spoofed by or misled by deepfake material. So it checks whatever you're watching and notifies you if we think a deepfake was found. In a couple of years from now, we see DuckDuckGoose as the go-to company for digital media authentication. Right now, our primary focus is on images and video, but we want to expand that to voice in the short term, and then other modalities of media and of data too in the future.
Well, one builds on the other. I mean, the more you do with digital identity, the more you get your media going, your videos going, and on and on and on. I mean, you're not starting from scratch each time. You're building on what you've already done, which is pretty
Correct.
amazing. And when you think about videos, I want to say it's one of the most dangerous, but I guess there's dangers in every direction. But you just talk about politics and affecting masses and citizens and cultures. With AI now, I could produce a video with somebody I don't like, maybe someone in the government, doing something really untoward, and get it out on all the socials, and it'll go viral in a moment and be treated as real, even though it's not. We know that can happen, and it does happen, quite honestly. So the ability for individuals to know right away if that's the case, I would say you've got a mission that's incredibly important and powerful. So, I mean, that's more of a statement than a question, but why don't you dovetail from that into sort of what is going on with AI, generative AI, that maybe the average listener isn't tracking right now? And, maybe just share for the final on this segment, what's on your roadmap, instead of me sort of projecting out. You tell me what the most important points are you're looking forward to.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ron, on the compliment, and no pressure on our mission statement. When it comes to generative AI, I think generative AI is here to stay. The applications are virtually endless, from design, gaming, content, other types of content creations in voice, all niche applications, but within these niches, generative AI can really be a great tool and optimize so many things. Well, because this niche focus, it will become a feature in many products. And great examples of this is Adobe Firefly, where within the latest Adobe software, with a bit of prompting, one does the photoshopping instead of how it used to be done. I think the next big step in generative AI is truly good multi-model generative models. So models that combine different types of modalities of data as input, for example, sound and video, or text and video, and output different multiple modalities of data. So video with sound, for example. This is still, relatively in its infancy, but give it a couple of months, maybe 1.5 years, and I think the multimodal generative AI will really kick off too. When it comes to things on our roadmap at DuckDuckGoose, our primary focus at the moment is to grow in digital identity verification and grow within that vertical. So we'll be releasing products for synthetic audio detection, or synthetic speech detection, I must say, because voice biometrics is becoming more and more popular or mainstream as an identification method, which can also be spoofed by using generative AI, voice generative AI models. So yeah, for us, the next 12 months is all about growing in digital identity verification and releasing new features and products to do so.
Yeah, it's great. So I mean, most of us have heard probably quite a long time ago if you ever answer a call and you don't know who it is, which most of us don't even answer anymore, but if you ever answer, they're going to ask you a question. Hopefully you will say yes. As soon as you say yes,
Yeah.
they utilize that and use it against you, of course. So we've all learned that a long time ago. So man, taking all those fears away would be just really fantastic.
When I was 8, we relocated to India, to Hyderabad in India with our family. My parents had both of them had worked there, and well, I hardly spoke any English, let alone Hindi. Well, and just being there after 1 month, my brother and I, both of us spoke fluent English and fluent Hindi. Well, and quite proud of that, picking that up so quick.
As you should be. That's pretty amazing.
I lost the Hindi, by the way. We forgot. Well, once we got back, there was no opportunity to practice. So that's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. Go stay in India for a month. It'll all come right back. And I know that's an experience with a different language.
I'm sure it will.
Yep. What do you need help with that you wish you did not?
One area where I sometimes can do with a bit of help is seeing the greater picture. For me, synthesizing and comprehending the broader context can be challenging. Yeah, and my 2 co-founders, Mark and Maria, do a great job at helping me with that. And so in that respect, a very balanced team.
Well, if we all had the same strengths, we wouldn't need partners. So that sounds like a perfect partnership.
Yeah.
What do others often look to you for help with?
Well, my colleagues and team members often come to me for critiques or reviews of their work, which I'm happy to give. Friends often come for relationship advice and renovating houses. I'm quite proficient in well, doing things inside the house and enjoy doing that too.
All right, fantastic. We're going to head for question number 4. What do you treasure most about your own human abilities?
Well, as long as I can remember, I've been very curious and have a drive to keep learning. So that's something I really treasure about my human abilities.
Amen to that, by the way. So if you look back on your whole life, what is the most consistent thing about you?
I have a passion for things that move. When it started with cars, then it became buses, trains, planes, boats, you name it. I'm fascinated to learn about vehicles and how they work and why they are so efficient. That's a consistent thing throughout my life.
Aerospace engineer. Makes sense.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, how about if we look back throughout your whole life, what has changed the most?
Me being able to handle losing. I was a terrible loser as a kid and can handle that much better. Or, well, as a startup founder, you have more lows than you have highs. And, well, you need to be able to handle those. And I wasn't able to do that 20 years ago.
Well, it goes back to an earlier question when you were saying you focus on the granular, especially as an entrepreneur. You gotta pull back and look at the whole picture sometimes. So what do you find strangest about reality?
Yeah, I thought this was a very interesting question. I think actually reality is never strange. We are the ones that's strange. The reason it seems this way is because our perception of reality is influenced by our own consciousness or subconsciousness, which has its own inherent tendencies and characteristics and which shape the way we interact with reality. Our experiences and logical intuitions over time contribute to our expectations or of how things should be or how we influence or how we view the things around us. So reality is just there. It's not strange. We are, or our perception of it is.
Fabulous. I love that answer. Really, really well thought out. So, we've all had those moments of life where you feel really, really alive. Usually it's to an event or something happens and you get that powerful alive feeling. What's the most recent example of that you've had?
Yeah, that was last weekend when I go flying. I have a private pilot license, so you can find me up in the skies above the Netherlands during the weekend, and that really makes me feel alive.
Oh no, I get that. That's fantastic. Yeah. How about traits? Do you have a single trait you would kind of put as your most unique one?
Well, I found this the most difficult question. I do have a few peculiar traits, but we'll leave it at that. And maybe the listeners who who know me a bit better might be laughing now.
Well, we'll get your partners on the podcast and ask them.
Yeah, you should.
This one's a sideways question, but if you weren't human, what would you be?
Yeah, I think I would love to be a house cat. I would like nothing more than to spend my days grooming, sleeping, eating, and silently judging humankind.
That's really, really fantastic. So appreciate all that. Gives us a little more insight into your personality, and we'll take that all day long.
You're welcome.
Segment 3, AI leaders and influencers. So it allows you to highlight some of the leading individuals, projects, and organizations that influence you or that people might want to follow. So maybe you can sort of, you're in it. Some of us, it's not that different than crypto and blockchain 10 years ago when nobody knew who to listen to, and we listened to everybody, and all that you heard wasn't always accurate or good. So you are so deep in this, maybe you can give some insights as to different AI leaders or influences.
Yeah, I think there are too many leaders or influencers to mention, but just to name a few, Andrew Ng is, of course, a very prominent figure within the AI community. So is Fei-Fei Li, former director of the Stanford AI Lab and founder of AI for All. Or Timnit Gebru, who is a computer scientist and prominent advocate of ethical AI, which is very relevant. And I personally find it very interesting, also very relevant to deepfake detection. Or Mustafa Sulaiman, who is the co-founder of DeepMind, who has done some great work there. Yeah, really too many names for a single list.
Yeah, well, but for those of us that aren't as immersed as yourself, that was a great list, and it gives us a sort of great target to go toward and learn even more. So I think that's really fantastic. So those are the people, but when you talk about resources, websites, apps, books, podcasts, do you have anything to share with us today about sort of the resources you find the most valuable and what you spend your time on?
Yeah, I have a couple of resources I'd like to share. As a student, I relied heavily upon a book called Pattern Recognition and Machine Learning by Bishop, which was kind of we called it the Bible of machine learning. I still look through it every now and then. It's really on the mathematical, it offers a mathematical foundation for modern machine learning, which I think any machine learning or deep learning engineer needs to understand. That's really for the really technical listeners. I follow Yannick Kilger's YouTube channel. He goes into academic research papers, or explains the state of the art in machine learning through academic research papers, discusses these papers, critiques them, explains how they work or how the code implementation works. I follow a newsletter called The Sequence, which is which covers a bit of everything. It keeps me up to date on the investment landscape, which AI startup is raising money where, which features are being released within machine learning or deep learning libraries, what code updates are being released, what else is going on in the community. The Sequence, their free Sunday newsletter, really helps me with that. Yeah, for reading up, which can be quite a challenge because there's so many people in the world just working on deepfake detection alone. Yeah, it's hard to keep up on what's going on out there. I use Zeta Alpha, which is a platform for searching academic research papers, basically Google Scholars on steroids. I find it incredibly useful for staying up to date within my domain of deepfake detection.
Amazing bunch of resources mentioned, and thank you for that. Really, really appreciate it. It's going to save someone tens, if not hundreds of hours to go into the wrong places. So really fantastic. We're going to move to segment 5, which is AI tips. So tell us some of the cool ways that you use AI that we might not have explored today, ways that everyone may have not realized are available. If you might want to give some example that illustrate a technique used to seed AI or get the best results, or I don't know, share something you have insights into just because of your specialty that you have.
Yeah, of course, I'd be happy to share. Well, to start, I think explainable AI is here to stay. Instead of being a feature on top of classification or regression models or whatever, I really encourage AI practitioners to, well, design for explainability. It can no longer be seen as an add-on. It will also be mandated. In Europe, there's regulation coming up, which makes this explainability mandatory. And I think for certain use cases, we cannot do without this explainability for biometrics or things using court or yeah, whatever. So, and as a start, I think offering the same level of explainability that a human could is a great starting point. So what if I would well, let's consider the task of deepfake detection. We need to substantiate our classification to our customers, and by mimicking how we would do this ourselves, and then, well, letting the AI learn how to do that, that offers a good starting point for explainable AI. That's one. Second, what I've learned is that in industry, you don't necessarily need the latest and the newest to get the job done. You don't need a 70 billion parameter large language model. Sometimes the very simple, just a random forest classifier just works just as well. And there's no need, most of the times there's no need to over-engineer things. I think the engineers always like to over-engineer things. I like to over-engineer things. It's part of, well, it's part of the job, or it's the fun part of the job, but often simple methods are just as great. And lastly, I think there will be more of a focus on bias and transparency of training data in the future, especially with the big tech companies and, well, the products they release. They're quite closed about what data they actually use to train these LLMs on. I think this issue will be increasingly relevant in the future, in the next months, actually.
Yeah, very, very soon. As a matter of fact, there's been threats of some pretty substantial lawsuits. I don't know whether they've actually been turned into lawsuits yet, but in regard to where did a product do its training, and if it did it on someone else's product,
yeah,
it's an issue. So all that's coming to light. And then you mentioned some laws that are being written in Europe right now, in the EU. That's a really interesting sort of direction, and that is, AI is amazing, but it can also do some amazingly bad things. We know that it can be used improperly or for bad things, I'll say, right, by bad people. So there has to be regulation around it. There has to be governance around it. The reality is, for yourself, and I know for me coming from the industry, the world moves so fast, and any regulative body moves very slow, right? By nature, they're supposed to get it right. But we now have this situation where they want to be moving slow and getting exactly right, while the industry is moving so darn fast that by the time the regulators catch up here, the industry's already, onto another universe. And that's just, I'll just call it an issue. You can call it a problem. I'm going to ask you to speak to that a little bit and see what you think. And part of the answer to that is DuckDuckGoose, and I'm sure there's other products that have the same mission to be able to look at what you just explained about explainable AI is really a big thing. And you asked for transparency in it. Like, show us how you came up with it. Show us what you utilized. Those things being designed in are really, really important and really very great, right? But except for DuckDuckGoose, I haven't heard much about it. So I don't know if you want to speak to some of the regulations that are coming out, some that should come out, any advice to the regulators, whether it's EU or anywhere else. Just that subject in general, if you can speak to that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think, well, regulation is always lagging on technological developments. That has been so for centuries. But yeah, with the potential of abusing, well, generative AI technology, there is yeah, there is urgency to do things here, and that gives opportunities for companies like my company, who offer retrospective analyses. But I was actually very glad to read a couple of days that 7 big tech firms sign into a White House AI commitment, among which OpenAI and Meta, saying that they'll cooperate with and think along with whatever legislation is coming up. And I'm glad to read that the big tech is taking its responsibility in when it comes to open sourcing or being transparent or trying to mitigate biases as much as possible.
Yeah, and that was pretty big news, and we'll watch it as it goes. But again, a big pat on the back for the mission that you guys have. I think it's critically important, and the fact that you're so advanced in it, you as a company, is pretty amazing. Joris, you really brought it to yet another level. It's really fantastic, and you sharing all that you had to share on this podcast is going to help many other people. So I can't thank you enough for it. But there's probably some people behind you that have helped you. So take a moment. Anybody you'd like to give a shout out to or mention, this is your moment.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Ron. I'd like to give a shout out to all the advisors that we have at DuckDuckGoose: Joe, Ian, Hans, Jeroen, and especially Jin, who made the connection with you guys. Thank you so much. We would not be where we are at DuckDuckGoose today without you.
Where can listeners go to learn more about you and the projects you're working on and DuckDuckGoose in general?
Well, you can find more on DuckDuckGoose at our website, DuckDuckGoose.ai. And if this podcast resonated with you, or you would like to follow up this conversation or learn more about the deepfake products and services that we provide at DuckDuckGoose, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'd love to connect.
Fantastic. So it's time for another safe landing at Outer Edges of the AI universe for today. This is your host, Ron Levy, and on behalf of our guest and the entire crew, I'd like to thank you for choosing to voyage with us today. We wish you a safe and enjoyable continuation of your journey. When you come back aboard, make sure to bring a friend. The Starship is always ready for more adventurers. Head over to Spotify or iTunes right now, rate us, share your thoughts. Your support and feedback mean the world to us. Don't forget to visit edgeofai.co. To learn more, connect with us on all the major social platforms by searching for edgeof_AI. Join the exciting conversations happening online. Before we sign off, mark your calendars for our next voyage, where we'll continue to unravel the mysteries and advancements of AI. Until then, bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of AI reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. While we make every effort to ensure that the information about AI technology is accurate and up to date, we cannot guarantee its accuracy, completeness, or timeliness. We make no representations or warranties of any kind with respect to the information, products, or services discussed. Please be aware AI may occasionally generate incorrect or misleading information and produce offensive or biased content. Under no circumstances shall we be liable for any loss or damage, including, without limitation, indirect or consequential loss or damage, or any loss or damage arising from loss of data or profits arising out of or in connection with the use of technology discussed on our podcast. Additionally, our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. Lastly, time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of these links. Refer to our website, edgeofai.xyz, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, privacy policy, and copyright notice.